Uh, it's a cold day out today, ladies and gentlemen. It's cold, it's icy, it's rainy. It's the kind of day to just bundle up in a nice sweater and drink some hot cocoa. This is not hot cocoa, but I think I'm going to go make some hot cocoa after this. That's kind of like my reward at the end of this video. All right, so today's going to be a video talking about Devil Fruit Awakenings. Now, I know I've made a slew of videos on this channel about Devil Fruit Awakenings. Typically, they're about, like, real powerful characters awakening their devil fruits, like Luffy awakening his Gamu Gamu no Mi, or in the recent chapters with Eustace Kid and Trafalgar Law awakening their devil fruit abilities, or Yonko awakenings, or anything like that. No, today we're just going to talk about devil fruit awakenings from powers that might not seem very strong, but if they were to awaken, they might get strong, or maybe they have the ability to break reality. Who knows? I came about this idea a couple videos ago. I can't remember which one it was, but there was one video recently where I talked about Kelly Funk awakening his jacket fruit, and I was like, oh dear God, he'll be able to turn the entire world into a jacket. Then he'll be able to put it all on, and he'll be able to find the One Piece instantly. You know, so a lot of people thought that was funny, and I'm like, all right, that's not bad. So let's do a video on Devil Fruit Awakenings, on characters that, you know, you might not think they would be able to awaken, or if their awakening did happen, it would suck, but it might turn out to be strong. Who knows? So let's start off with Kelly Funk. So he's a paramecia, right? He has the ability that has been termed a lot of times in the One Piece fandom as, like, one of the worst, if not the worst, devil fruits in the entire story. And I know you might say to that, like, well, there's no devil fruit power that's really bad. It's all about how you utilize that power, right? I mean, that was before we learned about the jacket fruit's existence. And look, it's not like the jacket fruit doesn't have a good ability, because when the right conditions are met and you turn into a jacket and somebody else puts you on, as we saw with Kelly and Bobby Funk, their combined power was, you know, quite a force to be reckoned with. But there are so many conditions, so many caveats in order to make the jacket fruit work, that if just some random person off the street ate it, it would be useless to them. Okay, so first off, it turns you into the jacket. Let's start with that. And it doesn't seem that, like, when you're a jacket, you're able to, like, fly around or whatever. You're just a jacket, and you, like, fall on the ground as a jacket, okay? So it immediately makes you immobile. And then somebody else has to pick you up and put you on and zipper you up as a jacket, and then you can take over that person's body. So it's like they have to be willing to do it. Okay, now in the case with Kelly and Bobby, it worked perfectly because they were like bounty hunters. They were both brothers. They trusted in each other with their lives. And Bobby was like willing to give Kelly the driver's seat if it meant that, you know, they could win the tournament and everything like that. So I guess it's the fruit that you should eat only if you have like a trusted best friend or comrade that you would literally trust your life with. Or I guess they would trust their lives with you because you'd be the one taking over their body and controlling them with the jacket fruit. Okay? So that's all the stuff you have to involve. It's actually even more complicated than that, because then you still have to turn into the jacket, and then your friend has to still grab you and put you on. And so that process, like, unless there's like other battles going on or you have some way to distract your enemy, it's not going to work too well, right? So that's just the base form of the jacket fruit, though. What would an awakening of the jacket fruit be like? And no, I don't think he'll be able to turn the whole world into a jacket. Like, Kelly Funk awakens his jacket powers, and then, like, the whole world just has a giant zipper, and he just, like, unzips the entire planet. You know, he puts the entire Earth's mantle on his mighty shoulders, right? Okay? But we understand the way that awakenings work. You know, it's like taking, with a few exceptions with this, Law being an exception to this, but mostly it's taking an ability that only affects yourself and allows you to affect the world around you, like Doflamingo turning the world into string, or Katakuri turning it into mochi, stuff like that, right? Law's was kind of like reversed with that, where Law's ability kind of always affects the world around him in his room, and with his awakening, with K-Room, he can affect the inside of a person's body, okay? So I guess it still is external to his own body, but internal to the opponent's body, if that makes sense, right? Which I guess it kind of does. So let's assume that in this form, Kelly does not, allow him to, like, have better control of himself as a jacket. It's not like he can, like, turn into a jacket and fly around and fight as a jacket, but he is allowed to turn other objects and things into jackets, maybe even other people. And so that would actually nullify the main weakness of the fruit, where you become a jacket and you can't do anything, okay? So it's like if Kelly awakened, and if he really wanted to turn into a jacket, he could still do that. But let's say Kelly walked up to a tank, like a giant tank, okay? And he used the awakening of the jacket fruit to turn that tank into a jacket, turn the tank into a piece of clothing, and then he could grab the tank jacket, put it on, and then boom, he's a tank man, Or any sort of weapon, a cannon, a ship, maybe he could do something like that. Like if he turns an entire battle ship into a jacket, he can put it on and boom, you have like giant mechanical Megazord Kelly Funk stomping around as a battleship jacket human or something of that nature. There might be limitations with size, although Kelly Funk is pretty short. Kelly Funk is like my height and Bobby Funk was huge, right? And so even though there was a size difference, Bobby could still put Kelly Funk's jacket on. So size difference might not be a situation here, okay? Size might not matter when it comes to the jacket fruit. Write that down, okay? So, if you think of it that way, or even just not even weaponry, let's say he walks up to a brick house and he turns the brick house into a jacket and puts it on, he gains the properties of a brick house, which is, primarily made of brick. So it's like it adds to his defense or something, or a steel wall or something of that nature. Anything, any kind of object. I mean, there might be, he might not be able to take like a small object like a sword or something and become a sword human, but who knows, he might. So that I think would be the best option for when the jacket fruit awakening, turning other things into jackets instead of you turning into a jacket and other people trying you on. You get to try other objects on, even if you want to limit so it doesn't work on other humans or other living things like animals. Like he can't turn that grizzly bear into a jacket and then put the grizzly bear on. Do not worry, the grizzly bear is not harmed in this process. And then he turns into like, I'm giant big bear, it's like, and then he brawls with Ragnar or whatever, right? So even if you can't do that with like animals or living things, like objects, like tanks, houses, other weaponry, battleships, turning that stuff into jackets and gaining those properties, I think that would be a pretty good power boost for the jacket fruit. And who knows, maybe if Kelly stays with it and he trains after the whole incident on Dressrosa, he might try to get better, get like a Rocky training montage where he's trying on a bunch of jackets. Oh, anybody a big fan of the Venture Brothers? Oh my god, I didn't realize that until just now, but like, Technicolor jackets! Yeah, it's just all about jackets, right? So for further information, go watch the Jacket music video, okay, by Shallow Gravy, all right? But yeah, that's kind of where the whole point of this video started, so I wanted to open it up with that. Going along with another character where, okay, the jacket fruit was sort of goofy. This character is goofy, but the fruit is actually very powerful. And of course, I'm talking about everybody's favorite clown star, Buggy D. Clown. Can we just admit that Buggy has the will of D at this point? Like, because it's like everybody always calls him Buggy D Clown at this point, so why not, right? It's revealed Buggy has the will of D, and no one would be surprised whatsoever. No, seriously, like, if it was actually revealed in the canon of One Piece that Buggy does have the will of D, I can imagine Buggy's response to that would be like, what? Like, even he didn't know? But, like, we the fans would just be like, yeah, we knew that the whole time, obviously. So Buggy's ability is the Barabara no Mi, so he can separate his own body apart into different segments. He can even fly with a limited capacity as long as his feet stay on the ground. He can kind of float around. And Buggy, even though he is a comic relief sort of character at the beginning parts of this story, still kind of is right now, he was able to do some really clever stuff with his abilities, like the ability Impel Down, where he grabbed one of the blue gory and like separated his body like a rocket launching off in different stages, and then did like that snap suplex from the top rope and then boom, and then slam the blue gory into the ground. It didn't work, it didn't knock him out, but if that was a regular human, it would have split their head clean off, right? Exactly. So Buggy actually has some pretty clever abilities. The Buggy car, like when he turns into the car, just grabs some wheels and reconfigure his body and he's a freaking go-kart all of a sudden. I mean, stuff like that, it shows ingenuity, right? And the crazy thing is, Buggy's fruit is actually very similar to Law's. The Oppi Oppi no Mi, because Law has the ability of Shambles, which allows him to like separate other people into different segments and move them around a fixed area, his room. So it's kind of like how some devil fruits do sort of cross over into the realms of other fruits. That would sort of be what I think the Bara no Mi's awakening would be. It would basically be him to be able to use Law's Shambles technique, and there might be some slight variations with this, but he would basically be able to split apart other objects like houses or trees or anything around him, and then he can like move them around and position them however he wants, okay? It might not be the same way as with the Bara, where it's, I mean, with the Oppi Oppi, because with the Oppi Oppi, if Law takes somebody's arm and their head off their body and then rearranges them so the arm is where the neck is and the head was where the arm was, the body still kind of functions, even though it's in this weird kind of like MC Escher kind of drawing now, or this like abstract thing going on, right? So I don't think it would be the same exact thing with the Bara's awakening, but it would be the same basic premise as Shambles, okay? And if you're saying to yourself, well, maybe that's like ripping off the Oppi Oppi no Mi too much, so that's not how it would work. Like I said, like look at Kid's awakening that we just saw a few chapters ago. So Kid's awakening allows him to basically use electromagnetic forces to, and the technique is called assign, where he assigns electromagnetic forces onto other people. Like electricity is being involved here. It's electromagnetism, not the same thing, but electricity is involved here, okay? And so Eneru's fruit was all about electricity and lightning, but Kids sort of crossed into that too. So I'm just saying, like, yeah, at the highest levels of these devil fruits, when they're truly awakened, yeah, Buggy might be able to utilize the Bara in a similar way of Shambles, you know, have like a fixed range around him, you know, maybe I'm thinking about 100 to 500 Baras personally, and then he could just have like a crazy circus routine with all of that. I mean, that'd be pretty sweet, right? Next up, I'm gonna save these for later, but next up, let's talk about Mr. 5. Okay, so Mr. 5, his fruit gets looked over a lot, and I did a video talking about, like, if Blackbeard made a list of all the fruits that he would want for his crew, like a hit list of devil fruits. I'm going to say Mr. 5's Bomb fruit would definitely be on there. It's a fruit that gets showcased very early on in One Piece, right as soon as we get into the Grand Line, so a lot of people forget about it, but it's literally ability to turn anything you want, well, I guess anything that your body is touching, so your spit or your mucus or whatever, into a bomb. But the next step from that would obviously be an awakening where you can afflict anything. You can turn anything around you into a bomb, sort of like Bambietta Bastarbine's ability of the Explode in Bleach, where she does not, you know, summon explosives, she turns things into explosives with her Ryatsu. Something similar to that with Mr. 5, where he could walk up to a house, touch the house, and the house is an explosive, and then it blows up. Maybe he could set a time bomb or something, right? So he like picks up a rock or something and then sets a time bomb, like this is going to explode in 10 seconds, and then chucks it at the opponent, and the opponent like blocks it or knocks it away, like, oh, that was just a rock, you're just throwing rocks at me, boom, and then it just blows up or whatever, right? So I feel like that's a fruit that will definitely reappear in the story at some place. I just have a feeling that either Blackbeard's going to go after Baroque Works members, eliminate them, get the fruit, or Mr. 5, whose real name is Gem of the Border, he might show back up at some point and use that power, because that's just something that was overlooked at like an early part of the story, but a very, very powerful devil fruit that maybe Mr. 5 might have not even have been able to like utilize it to its fullest extent. But you know, ever since, a lot of things is like, hey, these characters got defeated before, so maybe that gives them an impetus to train and motivate them to get stronger and awaken their fruits. Who knows? Although Mr. 5 is he is an accomplished firefighter right now, because after we saw Miss Golden Week's Meet Baroque cover series, he's just a straight up fireman right now. So I mean, like, he's a good guy, I guess. He's saving people out of burning buildings, you know, he's performing a great duty to everybody in the Grand Line, but like, he still has a very destructive power that Blackbeard would want. Here's a fun one. The clone fruit, the Mane no Mi, wielded by Bonkle. Also, I guess Higurashi Kurozumi's Mane no Mi, but who cares about Higurashi, right? Kaido certainly didn't. Well, he cared enough about her to kill her, and then, yeah, that was it. But anyway, yeah, so Mr. 2's clone fruit obviously allows him to, he touches somebody's face, and then using his other hand, he can turn into them, in their whole body, right? We saw this very clearly when he turned into Nami, right? But you think that the obvious application of that in an awakening would be to change the appearance of other people around you. Now, this can be used in a variety of different ways. For one thing, let's say you're a part of a pirate crew, which I don't think that scenario would really come up very often in the One Piece world. There's very rarely any pirate crews in One Piece. But imagine you have Mr. Two Bon Clay and his pirate crew, and they were being chased after by the Marines or whatever, and he awakened his Mane Mane no Mi. Couldn't he therefore just like turn his entire crew into different people, and then they could get away scot-free, like they wouldn't be able to detect him, right? Or if you're fighting someone and you had this ability to awaken and it didn't require physical contact, like you could basically make the opponents and the allies switch appearance, and so like that causes confusion on the battlefield. Kind of reminds me of the fight that Hisoka and Crollo Lucifer had at the Heaven's Arena in the in the manga of Hunter x Hunter. It never got animated. Well, hopefully it gets animated at some point. But when Crollo was using all of those abilities with Bandit's Secret, and one of them was convert hands, and he basically like if he touches somebody with one hand, he gives them his appearance, and if he touches somebody with another hand, he becomes them. He takes their appearance, right? So imagine the chaos that would wrought in a battle with like a lot of people fighting, like with a bunch of allies and a bunch of enemies on one side. It would cause absolute mayhem if Bon Clay was able to use an ability like that, right? Also, the idea that right now he is the new queen of the Kamabaka Kingdom, not the Kamabaka Kingdom, sorry, New Kama Land. The Kamabaka Kingdom is still led by Ivankov, but level 5.5 Impel Down, which is the New Kama Land, he is the new queen of New Kama Land, right? So it would be very interesting if, because with Ivankov's ability, Ivankov had the hormone fruit to allow people to change sex and stuff, during, his stay there at Impel Down. But he left, and now Bon Clay's there. So to carry that on, what if Bon Clay, during his fight with Magellan, awoke to the power of the clone fruit? So New Kama Land, it's still the same basic situation with like people like basically throwing the idea of gender and sex to the curve and just being able to become whatever they wanted to be, using the ability of the Mane Mane no Mi instead of the hormone fruit. Okay, so it could be a situation like that. But that was Mr. Two Bon Clay. I think that would be a very interesting fruit to see awakened. Then we have another one. This one might be broken as well. Bluino's Door fruit. Yeah, right? Okay, so it's already able to open doors. Like, it's not like he turns his own body into a door. He opens doors that his body is, like, physically touching to, like, pocket dimensions and stuff. So if he awakened the power of the Door fruit, would Bluino basically just be able to, like, open dimensional rifts whenever he wanted to? Like, sucking things into pocket dimensions and stuff? And, like, bringing about the whole, like, you're just fighting Bluino and he turns the whole battlefield into a door, and it's just like a revolving door, and then, like, you're in a pocket dimension all of a sudden. Like, what the hell is this? Right? Okay, so I mean, it probably wouldn't be hideously broken, but, like, to transport an entire group of people at once to a different dimension, or, like, the space between spaces, as we saw. Because I guess when he used his air door, he was kind of, like, the way he described it was he was going into, like, the space in between the air, which is very, anybody know physics? I don't know. But, like, it's a pocket dimension. Let's just make it simple and call it a pocket dimension, right? But if he was able to do that whenever he wanted over a large scale, that'd be crazy. It'd be like in Mare, at the beginning of Mare, where the giant gate just opens up, and they all fall in, like something like that. Then we have Beiji's, which is a fruit that also kind of involves a pocket dimension a little bit. So Capone Beiji's ability is the Shiro Shiro no Mi, or the Castle fruit, allowing him to, well, his own body is a castle, and so people can go into him, but then he also has his ability of Big Father, which allows him to bring the castle on the outside. I don't think that's the awakening. I think it just makes sense to have two different modes of that fruit at the basis. The idea that you can become a normal human, but the castle's inside of you like a pocket dimension, so everybody else kind of shrinks down to enter you. And then you also have the ability to bring the castle outside, okay? And so I think the true awakening of the castle fruit would be allowing you to add to your castle. So, if you're in a town and you've awakened the castle fruit, you turn into Big Father, you turn into the giant castle, but then you can, like, assimilate the town into your castle to make it even bigger. So it might not be able to, like, permanently stay part of you, but you could activate it and you could become basically a giant mobile fortress whenever you so desire, right? I think there's even a spell in D&D. It's like an 8th or 9th level spell. It's pretty high. It's called Mighty Fortress, I think, and it's basically like that. So, if Beiji, for example, awakened to that power when he was fighting Big Mom at Totland, he turns into Big Father, but then assimilates the rest of Whole Cake's chateau around him, incorporating it into his castle, so he has like an added fortress to it, all right? And so he could just like keep adding walls and structures and more cannons and stuff using the raw materials around him, okay? So I think that would be the true awakening of the castle fruit, and that would be pretty damn devastating. And it's already a pretty devastating fruit from the way Beiji used it already. Now we have a few devil fruits I wanted to bring up as like they may very well already be awakened because the users of these fruits are all pretty strong and they've had their abilities for a long time. Yeah, all of them had pretty much. So first let's talk about Magellan, the Warden of Impel Down. I guess Vice Warden of Impel Down right now. But like seriously, when Magellan was pulling out that Venom Demon shit, I mean, like, I can't think of a better way to awaken the Doku Doku no Mi, the Venom fruit, by literally be creating a giant glob of not just venom or poison at that point. That was straight up acid. That was, like, some of the most, like, caustic acid you can imagine, where it was, like, literally working like the combination of, like, a virus, poison, and acid, where anything this acid touched, like, spread like a disease. So like a drop of this venom demon poison could hit the ground, spread on the brick of the ground, and then if it hits flesh, it like just dissolves your flesh. Like, blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh my god, like, can you think of a better awakening? Like, if that was not Magellan's awakening, what the fuck was it? What was it at that point? To turn all of Impel Down's walls into venom? I guess he could have done that, but seriously, the Venom Demon thing, I think that's probably his awakening already, okay? Because that thing was pretty much nigh unstoppable. Like, seriously, they couldn't do anything to that thing. People forget this about Impel Down. Luffy never really straight up beat Magellan. It never happened, okay? Luffy got the crap beat out of Magellan, and then they managed to figure out a few ways, like a stopgap, like when Mr. 3 created the wax to, like, block the attack and then gave Luffy the boxing gloves. Like, that was able to hold him back for a little while, but that arc did not end with Luffy KOing Magellan and calling it a day. That arc ended with Magellan summoning this Venom Demon that Luffy had no way of hitting, that even the wax was, like, dissolving with the acid of it. Just nothing they could do, and they managed to escape Impel Down, because that was the whole premise of the arc. Just like the end of Totland was not about beating Big Mom, it was getting out of her territory. It was all about escaping Impel Down in Impel Down arc, right? So yeah, but I actually love that. I love the fact that Magellan kicked the shit out of Luffy so bad, and then Luffy came back from death, but Oda did not spin it with like, okay, now it's time for a rematch, Magellan. Like Luffy does get a rematch, but he doesn't win. It's more of a stalemate, if anything. I love that. I love that. You don't always have to do that in manga, where it's like the main villain has to be defeated in a straight-up brawl with the main character. You don't have to do that in every arc of a story, of a shonen. You could have it where the main character achieves victory on the villain in other ways. But yeah, at the end of the day, Magellan, I guess, did lose because Luffy escaped Impel Down and he's the Warden of Impel Down, but other than like actually being physically defeated, it did not happen. He got defeated later by level 6 prisoners, which makes me wonder how the level 6 prisoners defeated him if he was using Venom Demon. Maybe he had to recall it because he said, like, if he keeps Venom Demon out for too long, it will literally just erode all of the walls of Impel Down. And so maybe he fought against the level 6 prisoners that were rioting with just his normal Doku powers, and he was also kind of weakened at that point, so that's how they were able to best him. But yeah, also he had to fight against Bon Clay before that, and so Bon Clay probably took a lot out of him. Anyway, so yeah, that was Magellan, who I think is already awakened. Then we have Boa Hancock. So I would say that, like, just her basic ability to, like, use the love beam, to, like, if people have impure thoughts about her, they turn to stone. That would be the original just power of the love fruit. But then she also has the ability we saw at Marineford to turn inanimate objects and like the pacifistas, like robots, into stone, which either means that Boa Hancock is so hot that even robots cannot stand that. It's like one of the pacifistas look at Boa and just like malfunction, and then they turn to stone. Either that's a possibility, or she can just turn anything she wants into stone, like Medusa, basically. And at that point, it's awakened, because I would say that is the upgraded form. Like, not just having the prerequisite of having impure thoughts about Boa, having that ability to just turn anything into stone, whether it's a living thing or not, capable of lust. That's a pretty powerful ability. Also, unless you're Luffy, he's able to avoid it. I also feel that Boa, she's, just because of her personality, the reason she uses that ability, the love beam, is because she is very egotistical and stuff, so she feels like, oh, you will bow before me, and then she uses the love beam and they can't resist and they all turn to stone. She probably just gets a jolly out of that. Just like, oh yes, I'm beautiful, so you can't do anything to me, right? When in reality, she could probably just shoot them all with the love pistols or those love arrows and like slave arrows and turn them into stone that way. But she just like gets her kicks off of using the love beam. So that's why she usually opens with that. Then we have this one might actually be a little bit debatable, but I just want to make a case for this, okay? Gecko Moria. And I know what you might be thinking. Gecko Moria, very slothful, very lazy kind of character. Got the shit beat out of him by Doflamingo at Marineford. You know, he can't possibly be awakened. I just want to say, if that is the base power of the Kage no Mi, because think about this, seriously. Moria is able to not only manipulate his own shadow, he manipulates and tears out the shadows of other people, creates zombies using this ability, and seeming like an infinite number of zombies that all have to obey his will. Like, at first, when they become zombies, they're a little bit rebellious, but they eventually obey Moria no matter what. Even Luffy's shadow obeyed Moria at the end of the day. So you're basically able to make a nigh infinite army of zombie soldiers, to the point where he populated an entire island with these things, right? He had like hundreds of these things, right? And so that's why Moria was such a big threat. I like to think that the basic power of the Kage no Mi is just being able to manipulate your own shadow. And there's a little bit of evidence for this. I don't know if this is exactly canon or not, but the scene in the anime when we had Kaido facing off against Gecko Moria's crew in that flashback a few dozen episodes ago, we saw a scene with Moria there in his younger days, and he was charging at Kaido with his regular crew, not a zombie crew. This was back when he just had a regular crew. And we also saw some brick bats floating around him, right? So the brick bat is a shadow entity that was created using Moria's own shadow. He creates the Doppelman, and the Doppelman can break apart and become the brick bats, okay? So if at that point in his life he was like recently consumed the Kage no Mi, it would make sense he'd be only using the brick bats, because that's only an ability he can use with his own shadow. But then after his crew was defeated, decimated, completely wiped out by Kaido, he decided to train, and he got the power of the awakened Kage, so then he could create an army of zombies, and they could do all the work for him, okay? Because I guess when you awaken, you're awakened. Even if Moria trained as hard as he could to awaken his fruit, and then gave up as soon as he awakened and went to his slothful lifestyle and just let the zombies take care of everything, he's still awakened. It doesn't go away just because you're not motivated anymore. Once you awaken, you're awakened. At least that's the way I assume it works, right? So I just, the idea of making a giant army of zombies enough to populate an entire country that have complete subservience to you as the Shadow Lord, that sounds like an awakening to me. Once again, if that's not the awakening of the shadow fruit, to manipulate not only your shadow but other people's shadows, what else could you do with it, right? Open up the Shadow Realm? Send people to the Shadow Realm? I guess that could be an awakening, right? And then you Moria takes you into the Shadow Realm and you duel. Oh god, what kind of deck would Moria use? Moria would probably use some real bullshit, I want to say Shadows right out of the gates, because Shadow, but no, I feel like Moria would use some bullshit Burn deck or something, right? Or some deck designed to, deck the opponent out. The most underhanded, I don't really want to strategize, kind of strategy, that kind of strategy, right? Anyway, that's Moria. I feel like he's awakened. So those were the Paramecias I wrote down. Let me know on some other fruits, though, that we might be able to discuss. I might do a part 2 of this. Some other fruits, just because, Zones and Logias are not as interesting as Paramecias. When it comes to Zones, we already saw awakenings with the Demon Guards at Impel Down. So just picture, any Zone user, like Dalton or Kaku, and just picture them as the demon guards are, with like their lower halves being animals and then their midsection being humans, so to reveal their 6-pack, 8-pack abs, and then their upper half is also animal. So picture that instead of Minotauros, picture Kaku with the giraffe fruit, or Dalton with the bison fruit. That basically gets there. Or just picture like Monster Point Chopper, because that also might be an awakening, like Kaku in Monster Point, or Dalton in Monster Point, or like anybody in Monster Point. Basically, that's the awakening of zones. Logias, we've already established that Logias affect the weather when they're awakened, like we saw at Punk Hazard with Aokiji and Akainu's fight. I wanted to bring up something involving that, though, that I just thought about. Okay, so Aokiji has the power of the Hia Hia no Mi, and that's just the power of cold, not ice. Ice is a product of it, but it's just the power of cold itself. And then Akainu had the power of the Magu Magu no Mi, magma, right? So when they fought and they were awakened, they literally twisted the environment of Punk Hazard. So Aokiji's side is just like not, I always say Arctic tundra, but that's not really accurate. It's just Arctic, okay? It's an Arctic desert, if anything, right? It's just like Antarctica. He basically turned that side into. And then Akainu's side was just covered with magma streams and rivers and volcanoes and all that kind of stuff, right? Well, the thing I wanted to bring up is there are devil fruits that are like upgraded forms and downgraded forms of the same concept, and that's true with Logias. So we know that Akainu has the superior form of the Mera Mera no Mi, because Oda revealed this. So Ace is the Mera Mera, fire, but Akainu is the Magu Magu, magma, so even hotter, right? So if Ace awakened his Mera Mera, or I guess if Sabo awakened his Mera Mera now, would he be able to make an environment the same that Akainu did? I would imagine no, it wouldn't be the same. Like, Ace wouldn't be able to make volcanoes. Like, it's implied that when Akainu was awakened, he can just, summon a volcano out of the ground. Like, he literally, where it wasn't at before. Like, he literally channels into the magma flows in, like, the, it goes crust, and then the mantle, and then, like, what goes below the mantle? I don't know. That goes inner core, outer core, mantle, and the crust. Am I getting all that right? Am I missing a layer of the planet? I don't know, but like he can literally tap into the mantle or the outer core or whatever and just pull up a magma stream from there and just create a volcano whenever he wants. If that's truly the power of the Magu Magu no Mi, that might be the awakening of it, right? So Ace wouldn't be able to do that, but Ace might be able to create a super hot climate that is on fire. Like, remember there was an island that's Blackbeard went to after Marineford. It was an island that was just on fire, and it wasn't Punk Hazard because this was before Akainu and Aokiji fought there. This was like before the time skip. So it might be an island like that. Maybe that island Blackbeard was at, maybe that was a previous island that was like where the awakened form of the Mera Mera no Mi existed, and that's how that happens. So basically super hot island and maybe like a never-ending forest fire, essentially. Like it's an eternal flame that just never goes out. That would be Ace's awakening on the island. And then we have Aokiji, who's the superior form of the Yuki Yuki no Mi, which was Monet's fruit. And these are all Logias. So if Aokiji basically turns the area into Antarctica when he goes into his awakening with just raw cold, Monet with the Yuki Yuki, if she awakened, that would probably be more like a tundra. It would be cold and it would snow constantly, but the temperatures wouldn't be quite as bitter. Okay, so basically maybe Monet's ability would just keep it roughly around freezing, like maybe a little bit below 0 Celsius, 32 Fahrenheit. So maybe her temperature would be like 20 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe -5 Celsius, like right below freezing, but not like to the point of like Arctic temperatures, like or close to absolute 0 or anything like that, which Aokiji might actually be able to reach. He might be able to do some like Rukia Bankai type shit with his fruit, right? But Monet would just make it really cold, but some vegetation, some stuff like lichens or moss or things could survive. Some animals could still survive in that environment, like polar bears or whatever. And then, she could summon like just snow constantly, just constant snow in this area, but not quite as bad as like Antarctica, like what Aokiji makes, right? So I just want to bring that up with the Logias. But yeah, that's the video. Let me know what you guys think, and let me know of some other ideas for devil fruits, for these awakenings. I thought of a few other ones, but I wanted to hold off because I might make a part 2 of this. But let me know what you think. But before we go, we got to get into, that's right, Facts. Woo! Okay, elephant facts. I'm going to need some hot chocolate for this. Oh, yeah. Just drink all that hot chocolate. Wow, drink every single drop of that hot chocolate. That's incredible. All right, so this time I wanted to talk about elephants painting. So this was something I saw a few years ago, and the first time you see this video of an elephant painting something, taking like a brush in its trunk and like painting on a canvas, you're immediately like flabbergasted by that. You're like, wow, such amazing creatures. They're able to paint. That's so incredible, right? Well, it is true they're able to paint, but the underside of this might not be so glamorous, okay? Because basically, think about why humans draw or why humans paint, right? It's because, you know, the idea is it's enriching, right? It's like it's relaxing, you know, it's like, oh my God, I've had a stressful day. I'm going to doodle, I'm going to draw. I think we've all been in positions when we've been in like school or college or whatever, where we're like bored and we're just off to the side, just drawing like little scribbles in our notebooks or whatever. I was digging through some of my old stuff and I actually did find my old college notebooks and I just had like random doodles on the side of the notebook. You know, that's everybody does that, right? It's just like just if you're bored, you relax or to decompress, or it's just like I want to create something. I have an image in my head and I want to create something, right? So that's the way humans draw. And out of that, we've gotten some insanely good art over the years by many talented people, right? Okay. From what we understand with elephants, they don't get any enrichment out of it. They're not like, oh, we're drawing this picture of an elephant or like an elephant with its child. And to us, from a human perspective, oh my God, that looks so adorable. That's so crazy that elephants are able to do that. And the elephant must be like deeply emotional in it too. But from what we understand, no, elephants don't get an enrichment out of it. They're trained to do it. You know, so it's like you train any animal in something, they eventually learn how to do it. You know, you train a dog to go fetch a stick and it brings back the stick, right? If you show an elephant, elephants, as we said, are very highly intelligent and they're capable of recognizing, you know, pictures and images and stuff and keeping it in their memory. So if you show an elephant a picture, or if you like guide the elephant along to paint a picture enough times, the elephant will be able to just do it. And it's been shown before, like anytime you give an elephant a canvas and a brush, it won't create something brand new. It's like on Monday it draws the sunset, and then on Tuesday it draws a bird, and then on Wednesday it draws a tree. No, it'll draw the same thing over and over and over again because that's what it's taught to draw. And then the messed up part of this comes in when it's like they're in circuses or in captivity and they're like forced to like draw for like the amusement of humans. You know, it's just like, here's the canvas, here's a brush, you better paint something for the humans to look at. Yeah, that's the messed up thing, because the elephants are not getting any enjoyment or enrichment out of it. It's not like the elephant is like, it's such a beautiful sunrise today. I believe I will paint it and call it the sunrise, you know, and then the elephant stares at it and just like, this speaks to a part of my soul. From what we understand, that's not what's happening. Okay, so that's the basic idea with elephant painting. If you guys have ever seen it, I've seen videos of it. I'm thinking a lot of people, they were shared around on Facebook for a while there, but yeah, that's the situation. Anyway, that was today's elephant fact. Hope you all enjoyed. This will be Tekking and Barry. I guess Sabo too, he's hanging out today, signing out. Go make yourself some cocoa. I'm gonna drink Sabo. It's hot.